The maintenance bay of Horizon Gate smelled like engine oil and burnt metal. Kang Tae-soo wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the broken cooling system in front of him. It was his third repair job today, and his muscles were already tired. But he liked his work. There was something peaceful about fixing things that were broken. Horizon Gate was a space station that floated between two galaxies. Humans had built it together with several alien species as a place for trade and diplomacy. Every day, ships from different worlds came and went. Tae-soo had worked here for 3 years as a mechanic. He fixed human ships, alien ships, and everything in between. Today was different. Today, the Sarathi had arrived. The Sarathi were tall and beautiful in a way that made humans feel small. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were deep violet. But the most striking thing about them was their armor. Every Sarathi warrior wore armor made of crystal that seemed to glow from within. The armor covered their bodies like a second skin, and it was said to be stronger than any metal known to humans. Tae-soo had seen them walking through the station that morning. They moved with pride and grace, and they did not look at humans. They did not look at anyone. To the Sarathi, other species were beneath their attention. Stay away from them, Park Yuna had warned him at breakfast. Yuna was his friend, and worked as a language expert on the station. She knew more about alien cultures than anyone Tae-soo had ever met. The Sarathi are here for important talks with the station council. They are very proud and very dangerous. One wrong word, and they might start a war. Tae-soo had nodded and gone back to his food. He had no intention of talking to any Sarathi. He was just a mechanic. What would he even say to them? But fate had other plans. It happened in the afternoon. Tae-soo was working near the main docking bay when he heard a strange sound. It was a high-pitched whistle. Like air escaping from somewhere it should not escape. He looked up and saw it immediately. One of the old coolant pipes near the ceiling had cracked. Green liquid was spraying out in a thin stream. No, 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 Tae-soo muttered. If that pipe burst completely, the entire bay would flood with coolant. The chemical was not deadly, but it would damage everything it touched. Ships, equipment, and people would all be covered in the sticky green mess. He grabbed his heavy wrench and ran toward the pipe. He had to close the emergency valve before the crack got worse. People were shouting around him. Someone was calling for help. Tae-soo did not stop to listen. He knew exactly where the valve was. He ran past a group of workers. He jumped over a pile of cargo boxes. He was almost there. And then the pipe burst. Green coolant exploded everywhere. The spray hit Tae-soo in the face, and he could not see anything. He stumbled forward, trying to wipe his eyes with one hand while holding the wrench in the other. His foot caught on something, and he fell, but he did not hit the ground. He hit something else, something hard and warm. There was a sound like glass breaking. It was loud and sharp, and it seemed to echo through the entire bay. Tae-soo blinked the coolant from his eyes and looked up. A Sarathi woman stood in front of him. She was tall, almost a head taller than him, with silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her violet eyes were wide with shock. She was looking down at her own shoulder, where Tae-soo's wrench had struck her. Her armor was cracked. The crack ran across her shoulder plate like a lightning bolt frozen in crystal. Small pieces of the armor had fallen to the floor. They looked like broken stars lying in the green coolant. The entire docking bay went silent. Tae-soo could feel hundreds of eyes on him. He could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. The Sarathi woman slowly raised her head. Her violet eyes met his. There was something in her gaze that Tae-soo could not understand. It was not anger. Exactly. It was something deeper. Something ancient. Do you know what this means? She asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. It was the kind of calm that came before a storm. Tae-soo opened his mouth. But no words came out. He was still holding the wrench. His hands were shaking. He looked at the broken armor, then back at her face. I am so sorry, he finally managed to say. It was an accident. The pipe burst, and I could not see, and I was trying to reach the valve, and he stopped talking because the Sarathi woman was not listening. She was still staring at him with those strange violet eyes. Around them, Other Sarathi warriors were approaching. They formed a circle around Tesu and the woman, and their hands were on their weapons. One of them, a male with silver armor and a hard face, stepped forward. Tesu would later learn that his name was Commander Rael. "Valera," the commander said. His voice was cold. "What has this human done?" The woman, Valera, did not answer right away. She touched the crack in her armor with her fingertips. Her expression was unreadable. "He has broken my armor," she said quietly. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The other Sarathi warriors drew their weapons. They pointed them at Tesu, and he knew with absolute certainty that he was about to die. "Wait," Valera said. She raised her hand, and the warriors stopped. "Do not kill him yet. Yet." That word did not make Tesu feel better. "He must die," Commander Rael said. "You know our laws. To break a warrior's armor is—" "I know what it is," Valera interrupted. Her voice was sharp now. "Better than you do. That is why I will handle this myself." She turned back to Tesu. He was still on his knees in the puddle of green coolant, looking up at her like a man looking at his own death. "Human," she said. "You will come with me." Tesu did not know what was happening. He did not know why he was still alive. He only knew that this tall, beautiful alien woman was looking at him like he had just changed her entire world. And in a way, he had. He just did not know it yet. He stood up slowly, his legs weak beneath him. The wrench fell from his hand and clattered on the floor. Valera turned and walked toward the exit, and Tesu followed her. He did not know what else to do. Behind them, Commander Rael watched with hatred burning in his eyes. The human had no idea what he had done, but Rael knew, and he would make sure the human paid for it, one way or another. Park Yuna found Tesu sitting alone in his small room. His clothes were still wet with green coolant. His hands were still shaking. He had not moved since Valera had brought him here and told him to wait. "What happened?" Yuna asked. Her face was pale. "The entire station is talking about it. They say you attacked a Sarathi warrior." "I did not attack anyone," Tesu said. His voice was hollow. "There was an accident. A pipe burst. I fell into her, and my wrench hit her armor. It cracked." Yuna sat down heavily on the chair across from him. She put her face in her hands and let out a long breath. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no, no, no." "What?" Tesu looked at her. "What is it?" "I know I damaged her armor, but I can pay for repairs. I have some money saved. It was just an accident. Surely they will understand." Yuna looked up at him. There were tears in her eyes, but not from sadness. They were from fear. "Tesu," she said slowly, "you cannot repair Sarathi armor. It is not made of metal or glass. It is grown from their own bodies. It is part of them. Breaking someone's armor is not like breaking a piece of equipment." "Then what is it like?" Yuna took a deep breath. "Among the Sarathi, armor is sacred. It grows with them from the day they are born. It is connected to their soul, to their very identity. To break another's armor is the most important act in their culture. It is a declaration. A declaration of what?" "Of bonding," Yuna said. "Marriage, in human terms, but deeper than that. It means you want to join your life with theirs forever." In the old days, Sarathi warriors would fight each other until one broke the other's armor. The winner would then have the right to claim the loser as their bonded partner. Tesu stared at her. His mind could not accept what he was hearing. "You are telling me," he said slowly, "that by accidentally hitting her with a wrench, I proposed marriage to an alien warrior?" "Yes. That is insane. That is Sarathi culture." Yuna leaned forward. "And it gets worse. Since you broke her armor, Valera now has only two choices according to their law. She can accept you as her bonded partner, or she can kill you in ritual combat to restore her honor." The room felt very cold suddenly. Tesu thought about Valera, about how tall she was, how strong she looked, how her eyes had seemed to pierce right through him. "I am going to die," he said. "Maybe not." Yuna grabbed his hand. "I have been reading about their customs since I heard what happened. There is something called an observation period. If Valera chooses, she can take 30 station cycles to observe you, to decide if you are worthy of bonding. And if she decides I am not worthy, then she kills you. Taesu laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had just learned that his entire future depended on the opinion of an alien woman he had never met before today. So my choices are, marry an alien or die, he asked. I am afraid so. Before Taesu could respond, the door to his room opened. Valera stood in the doorway. She had changed her clothes. Her cracked armor was still visible on her shoulder, the broken pieces catching the light like frozen tears. Yuna jumped to her feet and bowed. Taesu stood up more slowly. He did not know what to say or do. Leave us, Valera said to Yuna. Her voice was calm, the same strange calm from before. Yuna looked at Taesu with worried eyes, but she nodded and left the room. The door closed behind her, and Taesu was alone with the alien woman whose life he had just turned upside down. Sit, Valera said. Taesu sat. Valera remained standing. She looked around his small room, at his few possessions, at the tools on his desk, at the picture of his family on the wall. Her expression gave nothing away. Your friend has told you about our customs, she said. It was not a question. Yes. Then you understand the situation. I understand that I made a terrible mistake, Taesu said. And I am very sorry. I never meant to disrespect you or your culture. I was just trying to stop the coolant leak. Valera was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She sat down across from him, her movements graceful even in such a simple action. I have invoked the observation period, she said. For the next 30 cycles, I will watch you. I will learn who you are. At the end, I will make my decision. Kamsa's name. Thank you, Taesu said. He was not sure if thanks were appropriate, but he did not know what else to say. Do not thank me yet. Valera's violet eyes met his. Commander Rael wants you dead. He says humans are not worthy of bonding with Sarathi. Many of my people agree with him. They will try to find ways to force my hand, to make me kill you, before the observation period ends. Why are you telling me this? Valera tilted her head, studying him like a scientist studying a strange new creature. Because I believe in fairness. You did not know what you were doing when you broke my armor. You did not choose this situation. Neither did I. But we are both in it now. She stood up and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back to look at him one more time. I have never lost a battle, she said. I have trained since I was a child. I have killed enemies that would make your nightmares seem peaceful. No one has ever broken my armor before, and now a human mechanic has done it by accident, with a simple tool. She paused, and for just a moment, Taesu thought he saw something like curiosity in her eyes. Perhaps the universe is trying to tell me something, she said. I will watch you, Kang Taesu. I will learn if you are worthy. Do not make me regret giving you this chance. Then she was gone. Taesu sat alone in his room for a long time after that. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned. Somewhere in the station, Commander Rael was probably planning ways to kill him. Somewhere else, Valera was thinking about whether to marry him or end his life. And all because of a broken pipe and a clumsy fall. He looked at the picture of his family on the wall. His mother and father, his younger sister, they were back on Earth, living their normal lives, completely unaware that their son had accidentally proposed to an alien warrior princess. What have I gotten myself into? Taesu whispered to the empty room. The room did not answer. But deep down, some small part of him was not just afraid. That small part was curious too. Valera was terrifying. Yes, but there had been something in her eyes. Something beneath the cold surface. Something almost human. Taesu shook his head and started to clean the coolant from his skin. Whatever happened next, he would need to be ready for it. His life had just changed forever. Valera followed Taesu everywhere. When he woke up in the morning, she was waiting outside his door. When he ate breakfast in the station cafeteria, she sat at a nearby table and watched. When he worked in the maintenance bay, she stood in the corner like a beautiful statue, her violet eyes tracking his every movement. At first, it made Taesu nervous. He dropped his tools. He made mistakes in his work. He could not focus on anything because he always felt her gaze on his back. But as the days passed, something strange happened. He got used to it. "Good morning," he said to her on the 5th day, as he walked out of his room. Valera did not respond. She simply fell into step behind him, her footsteps silent despite her height. "Not much of a talker, are you?" Taesu asked. He had started talking to her even though she rarely answered. It made the situation feel less strange somehow. "I am here to observe," Valera said. "Not to talk. You can do both, you know. It is not against the rules." Valera said nothing. But Taesu thought he saw her eyebrow move just a little. Was that amusement? He could not tell. The other workers in the maintenance bay had learned to ignore Valera's presence. At first, they had been terrified. A Sarathi warrior standing in the corner, watching everything, was not a normal part of their workday. But Taesu had explained the situation, and slowly, they had adjusted. "Your people are strange," Valera said one day, breaking her usual silence. Taesu was repairing a damaged engine, his hands covered in grease. "How so?" he asked without looking up. "You accept things so easily." "I am an outsider, a warrior from a species that looks down on yours. Yet your co-workers smile at me. They offer me food." One of them asked if I wanted to play cards. Taesu laughed. "That would be old Kim. He asks everyone to play cards. Do not take it personally. That is exactly my point. To your people, I am just another person. You do not seem to understand how unusual that is." Taesu finally looked up at her. "Should we treat you differently? Should we be afraid of you? Other species are." "Well, we are not other species." Taesu wiped his hands on a rag. "Humans have a saying, never judge a book by its cover. It means you should not decide what someone is like just by looking at them." Valera was quiet for a moment. "We have a similar saying, but ours means the opposite. We believe that the outside always reflects the inside, that armor, appearance, and bearing reveal the truth of a person." "Maybe both sayings are true in different ways," Taesu said. "Maybe you need to look at both the outside and the inside to really understand someone." Valera stared at him for a long time. Then she looked away without saying another word. But Taesu noticed that after that day, she stood a little closer when she watched him work. On the 10th day, something happened that changed things between them. A Sarathi ship came into the maintenance bay with engine problems. The pilot was young, barely more than a child by Sarathi standards. He was alone, far from home, and clearly did not have much money. When Taesu looked at the damage, he knew it would be expensive to fix. "I cannot pay," the young Sarathi said. His voice was small and ashamed. "I spent everything I had just getting here. I thought I could find work, but, hey, it is okay," Taesu said gently. "Let me take a look. Maybe it is not as bad as it seems." It was bad. The engine needed parts that cost more than most workers made in a month. Taesu looked at the young pilot, saw the fear and desperation in his eyes, and made a decision. "I will fix it for free," he said. The young Sarathi's eyes went wide. But that is, consider it a welcome gift. Horizon Gate can be tough for newcomers. Someone helped me when I first arrived. I am just passing it forward." Taesu worked on the ship for the rest of the day. He used parts from his own personal supply, things he had been saving for his own projects. When he was done, the young pilot's ship was running better than it had in years. The pilot thanked him with tears in his eyes and flew away. Taesu watched him go, feeling good about what he had done. When he turned around, Valera was standing right behind him. Her expression was different now. The cold mask had cracked. Just a little. "Why did you do that?" she asked. "Do what?" "Help him. He had nothing to offer you. He could not pay. He could not help your career. He was not even human. Why would you spend your own money and time on a stranger?" Taesu shrugged. Because he needed help. That is reason enough, is it not? Valera did not answer. But that night, when Tae-Soo went back to his room, he found a small package outside his door. Inside was a set of high-quality tools, the kind that mechanics dreamed about owning. There was no note, but Tae-Soo knew who they were from. The next few days were different. Valera still followed him, still watched him, but now she also asked questions. She wanted to know about his family, his childhood, his dreams. She seemed genuinely curious about human life in a way that went beyond just observing. Tae-Soo learned things about her too. He learned that she had been a warrior since she was old enough to hold a weapon. He learned that she had never known her parents, that she had been raised by the military. He learned that she had no friends among her own people, only soldiers who respected her and commanders who used her. "Do you ever get lonely?" Tae-Soo asked one evening. They were sitting in the observation deck, watching the stars drift past. "Loneliness is weakness," Valera said automatically. Then she paused. "That is what I was taught. But lately, I have begun to wonder if that teaching was wrong. Everyone gets lonely sometimes. It does not make you weak. It just makes you alive." Valera turned to look at him. The starlight made her silver hair glow. Her violet eyes were softer than he had ever seen them. "You are very strange, Kang Tae-Soo," she said. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "I have not decided yet," but she smiled when she said it. It was small, barely there, gone in an instant. But Tae-Soo saw it, and he felt something warm spread through his chest. He was starting to understand that Valera was not just a cold warrior. She was a person who had never been allowed to be anything else. And somewhere beneath all that armor, both the physical kind and the emotional kind, there was someone who wanted to be seen. Tae-Soo was beginning to see her. And he was beginning to realize that he did not want the observation period to end, not because he was afraid of her decision, but because he was starting to enjoy having her around. That realization scared him more than any threat ever could. Commander Rael had been patient long enough. He stood before the Sarathi Council on the 20th day of the observation period. His silver armor gleamed under the lights, and his face was hard as stone. Around him sat the most important Sarathi on the station, warriors and diplomats who had the power to change Tae-Soo's fate. "This is unacceptable," Rael said, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "One of our finest warriors is wasting her time watching a human fix machines. She should be training, fighting, serving our empire. Instead, she follows this creature around like a pet." "Valera has the right to her observation period," one of the council members said. "It is the law." "The law was written for Sarathi," Rael snapped. "Not for humans. This mechanic is not worthy of consideration. He cannot fight. He cannot hunt. He has no honor, no lineage, no standing. He is nothing." "Then let him prove it," another council member suggested. "If he is truly nothing, he will fail. And if he fails, Valera will be free to end this foolishness." Rael smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Yes, let him prove it." The room went silent. The trial of worth was ancient, rarely used. It was a series of 3 challenges designed to test if someone was worthy of bonding with a Sarathi warrior. The challenges were brutal, dangerous, and almost impossible for anyone who was not Sarathi. "The human will never survive," one council member whispered. "That is the point," Rael replied. Tae-Soo learned about the trial that evening. Yuna came to his room with the news, her face pale with worry. "They are going to kill you," she said. "The challenges are designed for Sarathi bodies. Humans cannot do them. Rael knows this. He is using the law to murder you legally." Tae-Soo sat down heavily on his bed. He had known something like this might happen. Rael had been looking for a way to get rid of him since the beginning. "What are the challenges?" he asked. 3 tests: endurance, strength, and combat. Yuna pulled out her tablet and showed him the information. "The first is the burning chamber. They lock you in a room and raise the temperature until it is hot enough to cook metal. Sarathi can survive it because their armor protects them, and their bodies can handle extreme heat. Humans cannot. What about the second? The Stone of Ancestors, a massive rock that weighs more than 10 humans. You have to move it from one side of a room to the other. Sarathi are much stronger than us. No human could lift that stone. Tesu nodded slowly. And the third? Yuna hesitated. Combat. You have to fight a Sarathi warrior in hand-to-hand combat. Let me guess. Commander Rael volunteered. How did you know? Because he hates me the most. Tesu laughed bitterly. He probably requested it personally. And the door opened, and Valera walked in. She had heard the news too. Her face was unreadable. But Tesu had learned to notice the small signs. The tightness around her eyes, the way her hands were clenched at her sides. You do not have to do this, she said. I can refuse the bonding. I can accept the dishonor. You do not have to die for me. And what happens to you if you refuse? Tesu asked. Valera did not answer, but Yuna did. She would be stripped of her rank, exiled from Sarathi space. Everything she has worked for, her entire life, would be gone. Tesu looked at Valera, this proud warrior who had never lost a battle. This lonely woman who was just beginning to open up. She was willing to throw everything away to save him. No, he said. Valera blinked. No? I will do the challenges. You will die. Maybe. Tesu stood up and walked toward her. But you told me something once. You said the universe might be trying to tell you something when I broke your armor. Well, maybe it is trying to tell me something too. Maybe I am supposed to be here. Maybe I am supposed to fight. Humans are not built for these challenges. Tesu smiled. You might be surprised what humans are built for. The first challenge came 2 days later. The burning chamber was exactly what Yuna had described. A metal room with thick walls and no windows. The Sarathi Council gathered to watch on screens outside. Tesu stepped inside, and the door sealed behind him. At first, it was just warm. Then, the temperature started to rise. After 5 minutes, it was like being inside an oven. Tesu's skin was red. His clothes were soaked with sweat. Every breath burned his lungs. He could see heat waves rippling in the air. Outside, Commander Rael watched with satisfaction. The human was suffering. Soon, he would collapse. And this foolishness would be over. But something strange was happening. Tesu was sweating more than any Sarathi had ever seen. His entire body was covered in water. And instead of collapsing, he was still standing, still breathing, still alive. The Sarathi did not understand. Their bodies did not sweat. They cooled themselves differently, through their armor and their blood. They had never seen a creature release so much water from its skin. 30 minutes passed. An hour. 2 hours. The chamber was hot enough to melt lead now. And Tesu was still standing. He was suffering. There was no doubt about that. His vision was blurry. His legs were shaking. He had to lean against the wall to stay upright. But he was alive. When the door finally opened and cool air rushed in, Tesu stumbled out and collapsed on the floor. Medical staff rushed to him with water and cooling packs. He drank like a man who had been lost in a desert. Valera stood over him, her eyes wide with something that might have been wonder. How? She asked. Humans sweat. Tesu croaked. It cools our bodies. We evolved in hot places. Long ago. Our ancestors survived things that would kill other species. He had passed the first challenge. Commander Rael's face turned dark with anger. But there were still 2 challenges left. The second challenge was the Stone of Ancestors, a massive boulder that sat in the center of a ceremonial room. Tesu looked at it and knew immediately that he could never lift it. Yuna was right. It was too heavy. But lifting was not the only way to move something. Tesu asked for 1 hour to prepare. The council agreed, thinking he wanted time to pray or say goodbye. Instead, he went to his workshop and came back with metal bars, wheels, and ropes. What is he doing? One of the council members asked. Tesu built a lever system. He used the metal bars to create a lifting mechanism and placed wheels underneath the stone. Then, using basic physics and engineering, he slowly moved the boulder across the room. It took him 4 hours. His hands were bleeding by the end, but the stone moved from one side to the other. "This is cheating," Rael shouted. "He did not use his own strength." "Well, Injang, well he does heaven," replied Avasp. "He used his mind," Valera said, stepping forward. "Intelligence is strength. The rules say he must move the stone. They do not say how." The council debated for a long time. In the end, they had to agree. Taesu had followed the letter of the law. The second challenge was passed. Now only one challenge remained: combat. And Taesu would have to face Commander Rael himself. Everyone knew what that meant. Rael was one of the deadliest warriors in the Sarathi Empire. He had killed hundreds of enemies in battle. He was faster, stronger, and better trained than any human could ever hope to be. Taesu had 2 days to prepare. 2 days before, he would almost certainly die. But as he walked back to his room that night, something strange happened. He was not afraid. He had already done things that should have been impossible. He had survived heat that should have killed him. He had moved a stone that should have been unmovable. Maybe, just maybe, he could do one more impossible thing. He did not really believe it. But he was going to try anyway, because that was what humans did. They tried. The night before the final trial, Valera came to Taesu's room. He was sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, staring at nothing. He had spent the day trying to train, trying to learn some basic fighting moves, but it was useless. You could not learn in 2 days what Rael had spent a lifetime mastering. Valera sat down across from him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You do not have to do this," she finally said. It was the same thing she had said before, but her voice was different now. Softer. Almost pleading. "We already talked about this. I know. But I need to say it again." Valera looked down at her hands. "I have watched you for 20 days now. I have seen who you are. You are kind. Taesu. You are good. The galaxy needs more people like you. It does not need another dead hero. So you want me to run? To hide? To let you lose everything? I want you to live." She looked up, and Taesu was shocked to see tears in her violet eyes. He had not known Sarathi could cry. "I have never wanted anything before. My whole life. I have only done what I was told. Fight. Win. Serve. But now, I want something. I want you to live." Taesu reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth, different from human skin. But the connection felt warm anyway. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because you make me feel things I have never felt before. Because when I am with you, I do not feel alone. Because—" She stopped, struggling with words that did not come naturally to her. "Because you see me. Not my armor, not my rank, not my skills. You see me." "I do see you," Taesu said. "I see a woman who has spent her whole life being strong for everyone else. I see someone who deserves to be happy. I see someone worth fighting for. I am not worth your life. That is not your decision to make." Valera stared at him. Then, slowly, she moved closer. She sat beside him, her shoulder touching his. They stayed like that for a long time. Two people from different worlds, finding comfort in each other's presence. "Tell me about Earth," Valera said softly. "Tell me about your home." So Taesu told her. He told her about the blue skies and green forests. He told her about the oceans that covered most of the planet. He told her about his family's small house on the edge of a city, where his mother grew vegetables in a tiny garden and his father fixed cars for a living. "That is where you learn to repair things," Valera said. "Yes, my father taught me. He always said that there is nothing in the universe that cannot be fixed if you try hard enough." "Do you believe that?" Taesu thought about it. "I want to. Some things seem impossible to fix. But then again, A lot of impossible things have happened lately. Valera almost smiled. Almost. Yes, they have. When morning came, Valera was gone. But she had left something on the floor beside Tae-Soo. A small crystal, broken from her armor. It glowed faintly in the dim light. It was a piece of herself, given freely. Tae-Soo held it in his hand as he walked toward the arena. Whatever happened today, he would carry a part of her with him. The arena was a large circular room in the heart of the Sarathi section of the station. Hundreds of Sarathi had gathered to watch. The council sat on a raised platform, and Valera stood among them, her face a careful mask. Commander Rael was already in the center of the arena. His armor gleamed. His eyes burned with hatred. He had been waiting for this moment since the day Tae-Soo broke Valera's armor. "Human," Rael said as Tae-Soo entered. "I am going to enjoy killing you. You talk a lot for someone who is supposed to be a great warrior," Tae-Soo replied. He was surprised by how calm his voice sounded. Maybe it was the crystal in his pocket. Maybe it was knowing that Valera was watching. Either way, his fear had turned into something else. Something harder. The signal was given, and the fight began. Rael was fast. Faster than anything Tae-Soo had ever seen. One moment he was standing across the arena. The next he was right in front of Tae-Soo. His fist smashing into Tae-Soo's chest. Tae-Soo flew backward and hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through his body. He heard something crack. Probably a rib. The crowd cheered. He forced himself to stand. Rael hit him again, and again, and again. Each blow was worse than the last. Tae-Soo tasted blood. His vision blurred. One of his eyes was swelling shut. His left arm hung at an odd angle. Probably dislocated. But he kept standing. The Sarathi crowd began to grow quiet. They had expected a quick death, a few moments of violence before the human collapsed and stayed down. Instead, they were watching something they had never seen before, a human who refused to fall. "Stay down," Rael growled, kicking Tae-Soo in the stomach. "Just stay down and die with some dignity." No. Tae-Soo spat blood onto the floor. His legs were shaking so badly he could barely stand. Every part of his body was screaming at him to give up, to lie down, to let it be over. He thought of Valera. He thought of her tears. He thought of the small piece of armor in his pocket. He stood up. Rael hit him again. He fell. He stood up. Again and again and again. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the council members were leaning forward, their eyes wide. This was not possible. No creature should be able to take this much punishment and keep rising. But Tae-Soo was not just any creature. He was human. And humans had something that the Sarathi did not fully understand. They had stubbornness. They had willpower. They had the ability to keep going long after their bodies said stop. "What are you?" Rael whispered. For the first time, there was something other than hatred in his eyes. There was confusion. And maybe, just maybe, a tiny bit of fear. "I am just a mechanic," Tae-Soo said through broken teeth. "But I am a mechanic who does not know when to quit." Rael raised his fist for another blow. But this time, he hesitated. Just for a second. Just for a heartbeat. And in that moment, Tae-Soo moved. He threw himself forward with everything he had left. His head connected with Rael's face with a sound like thunder. It was a desperate, clumsy attack. It was not elegant or skilled. But it worked. Rael stumbled backward. And as he did, something happened that made the entire arena gasp. His armor cracked. A thin line appeared across Rael's chest plate, running from his shoulder to his hip. Pieces of crystal fell to the floor, glittering in the light. Tae-Soo had broken his armor. The arena exploded into chaos. Sarathi were shouting, pointing, arguing. The council members were on their feet. And in the middle of it all, Commander Rael stood frozen, staring down at the crack in his own armor. "Impossible," he whispered. Tae-Soo smiled through the blood on his face. "I told you, humans are full of surprises." Then his legs finally gave out, and everything went dark. He had done the impossible. He had passed the final trial. Tae-Soo woke up to voices. They were distant at first, like sounds underwater. But slowly, they became clearer. He actually did it, someone was saying. He broke a commander's armor. I have never seen anything like it. He should have died 10 times over. The human is something else. Tae-Soo opened his eyes. He was lying on a medical bed in the station's hospital. Park Yuna was sitting beside him, her face streaked with dried tears. When she saw him wake up, she let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "You are insane," she said. "You know that, right?" "Did I win?" Tae-Soo's voice came out as a croak. "You broke Commander Rael's armor. By their own laws, you have proven yourself worthy." Yuna shook her head in disbelief. A human mechanic defeated one of the greatest Sarathi warriors in history. The entire station is talking about it. The entire galaxy will be talking about it soon. Tae-Soo tried to sit up, but pain shot through his entire body. He had broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, internal bruising, and more cuts than he could count. The doctors said it was a miracle he was still alive. "Where is Valera?" he asked. Before Yuna could answer, the door burst open. A young Sarathi medic ran in, his face pale with panic. "The arena," he gasped. "Commander Rael. He has lost his mind." Tae-Soo felt his blood go cold. "What happened? After you passed out, the council declared you worthy. They said the bonding could proceed. But Rael, he would not accept it. He drew a forbidden weapon. He said he would rather die than see a human bonded to a Sarathi warrior." Tae-Soo was already pushing himself off the bed. Pain screamed through every part of his body, but he ignored it. "Where is Valera?" "Still in the arena. She is trying to talk him down, but he is not listening. He has already hurt 3 guards who tried to stop him." Tae-Soo did not wait to hear more. He stumbled toward the door, using the wall for support. Yuna tried to stop him, but he pushed past her. "You can barely walk," she shouted after him. "What are you going to do?" He did not answer. He did not know. All he knew was that Valera was in danger, and he had to get to her. The journey to the arena felt like it took forever. Every step was agony. People stared at him as he passed. This broken human dragging himself through the corridors like a man possessed. Some tried to help him. He waved them away. When he finally reached the arena, he saw the scene that awaited him. Commander Rael stood in the center of the room. His cracked armor was forgotten. In his hand, he held a weapon that Tae-Soo had never seen before. It looked like a blade made of pure light, and it hummed with deadly energy. Valera stood between Rael and the exit, her hands raised in a calming gesture. Her own armor still bore the crack from when Tae-Soo had first broken it. She was trying to reason with him, but Tae-Soo could see from her posture that she was ready to fight if necessary. "Put the weapon down," Valera was saying. "This is madness, Rael. You are better than this." "Better than what?" Rael laughed bitterly. "Better than being humiliated by a human? Better than watching our greatest traditions be destroyed by some creature who cannot even lift a sword? He passed the trials. He proved himself worthy." "Worthy?" Rael's face twisted with rage. "He is an insect. A nothing. And you? You would bond with him? You would throw away everything for this piece of garbage?" "Yes." Valera's voice was steady. "I would." Rael screamed in fury. He lunged forward, the light blade slashing toward Valera. She dodged, but barely. The blade cut through the air, where her head had been a moment before. Tae-Soo moved without thinking. He ran into the arena, ignoring the pain, ignoring the fact that he could barely stand. Rael saw him coming and changed his target. The blade swung toward Tae-Soo, a killing blow that would cut him in half. And then Valera was there. She threw herself between them, her body shielding Tae-Soo. The blade struck her remaining armor, with a sound like 1,000 windows breaking at once. Her armor shattered completely. Pieces of crystal flew everywhere, catching the light like falling stars. When the dust settled, Valera stood before the watching crowd completely exposed. Her armor, the sacred extension of her soul, was gone. All that remained were the raw wounds where the crystal had been torn from her skin. She was more vulnerable than any Sarathi had ever been in public, and she had done it willingly. For him, the arena was dead silent. Rael stared at what he had done. The light blade fell from his trembling hands. "Valera, you have broken the sacred law of combat," Valera said. Her voice was strong despite her wounds. "You used a forbidden weapon. You attacked outside the bounds of the trial. And you have destroyed my armor." She turned to face the council, her head held high despite her nakedness. "By our oldest laws, Commander Rael has committed treason. He has dishonored himself, his rank, and his family line." The council members looked at each other. There was no debate this time. What Rael had done was unforgivable by Sarathi standards. He had broken every rule their society held dear. "Commander Rael," the head counselor said heavily, "you are hereby stripped of your rank and placed under arrest. You will face judgment for your crimes." Guards moved forward to take Rael away. He did not resist. All the fight had gone out of him. He looked broken, empty, like a man who had lost everything. As they led him past Tesu, he paused. "I hope you understand what you have won, human," he said quietly. "She gave everything for you. Everything. If you ever make her regret that choice, I will find a way to end you." Then he was gone. Tesu turned to Valera. She was swaying on her feet, weak from blood loss and shock. He caught her before she could fall. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did you do that?" Valera looked up at him. Her violet eyes were filled with tears, but she was smiling. It was the first real smile he had ever seen from her. "Because you are worthy," she said. "Because you proved that with every blow you took, and every time you stood back up, and because," she paused, struggling with words that did not come easy to her people. "Because I love you, Kang Tesu." Tesu felt tears running down his own face. He did not care who was watching. He did not care about the council or the crowd or the politics of two species. All that mattered was the woman in his arms. "I love you too," he said. He did not know what the future would hold. He did not know how a human and a Sarathi could build a life together. But he knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And that was more than enough. 6 weeks had passed since the day Valera's armor shattered. Tesu stood at the window of his new quarters, watching ships come and go from Horizon Gate. His body had mostly healed, though he still had scars that would never fade. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. He did not feel lucky. He felt changed. Behind him, he heard the door open. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. He could feel her presence now, like a warmth at the edge of his mind. The Sarathi healers said this was normal for bonded pairs. The connection between them had become real, physical, something that went beyond words. "The healer wants to see you," Valera said. Tesu turned and smiled. Valera stood in the doorway, and she looked different than she had when they first met. Her armor was growing back, but it was not the same cold silver it had been before. New patterns were spreading across the crystal. Warm colors mixed with the silver, bronze, and gold threads that seemed to pulse with inner light. She was beautiful. She had always been beautiful. But now there was a softness to her that had not been there before. A warmth in her eyes that made Tesu's heart beat faster every time he saw it. "Is something wrong?" he asked, walking toward her. "No. Something is different." She held out her hand, and he took it. Her skin was warmer than it used to be. Another change the healers could not explain. They walked together through the station. People stopped and stared as they passed. The story of the human mechanic and the Sarathi warrior had spread across the galaxy. Some looked at them with wonder, others with confusion. A few, mostly older Sarathi, still looked at them with disapproval. Valera did not care. She had told Tesu once that she had spent her whole life trying to please others, trying to be what they wanted her to be. She was done with that now. The only opinion that mattered to her was his. The Sarathi Healing Center was a quiet place, filled with soft light and the gentle sound of water. The head healer was an old woman named Elder Sora. She had been kind to them both since the beginning. One of the few Sarathi who seemed genuinely happy about their bonding. Come in, Sora said, waving them toward a examination platform. I have been studying your armor, Valera. The results are fascinating. Valera sat on the platform while Sora ran her scanning tools over the growing armor. The elder's eyes widened as she looked at the readings. Just as I thought, Sora murmured. This is unprecedented. What is it? Tesu asked, worried. Is something wrong with her? Wrong? No. Something is very right. Sora turned the scanner so they could both see. Sarathi armor is connected to our souls, to our deepest selves. When Valera's armor was destroyed, something remarkable happened. Instead of growing back the same way, it is adapting, changing. Changing how? Valera asked. Sora smiled. Your armor is incorporating elements of him. She pointed at Tesu. The warm colors, the new patterns. These are not random. Your armor is reflecting your bond. It is becoming something new, something that has never existed before. Valera looked down at her hands. The bronze threads in her armor seemed to glow brighter as she watched. I have been studying the old texts, Sora continued. Long ago, before we became warriors, the Sarathi believed that true bonding could change a person at the deepest level. We thought it was just legend. But you two, you are living proof that the legends were true. Tesu squeezed Valera's hand. He did not fully understand what this meant for Sarathi culture. But he could see that it was important. There is more, Sora said, her voice becoming serious. Word of your bonding has spread. Other Sarathi are asking questions. Young ones. Mostly. They want to know if they could bond with members of other species. They want to know if there might be a different way to live. That will cause problems, Valera said quietly. The traditionalists will not accept it. The traditionalists do not have to accept it. It is happening whether they like it or not. Sora placed a wrinkled hand on Valera's shoulder. You have started something, child, something that may change our people forever. The question is, are you ready for that responsibility? Valera looked at Tesu. He saw the uncertainty in her eyes, the weight of what they were being asked to carry. He also saw strength, and courage, and love. We are ready, she said. Together. That evening, Tesu and Valera sat on the observation deck, watching the stars. It had become their favorite spot. A place where they could be alone with each other, and with the endless universe. Park Yuna showed me something interesting today, Tesu said. News feeds from across the galaxy. Stories about us. They are calling us the bridge couple. The bridge couple? Because we built a bridge between our species. At least, that is what the reporters are saying. He laughed softly. I am not sure how I feel about being famous. I never wanted fame either. Valera admitted. I just wanted to serve my people and die with honor. But now... She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Now I want something different. I want a life, a real life, with meaning beyond fighting and killing. What kind of life? She was quiet for a moment. I do not know yet. That is the exciting part. For the first time ever, I do not know what comes next. And instead of being afraid, I am happy about it. Tesu wrapped his arm around her. Whatever comes next, we will figure it out together. You humans and your optimism. But she was smiling as she said it. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching a transport ship glide past the window. Then, Valera spoke again. Tesu, I never thanked you properly. For what? For breaking my armor. She turned to look at him, her violet eyes soft. I spent my whole life building walls around myself. I thought armor made me strong. I thought being alone made me safe. But you showed me that real strength comes from letting people in. Real safety comes from having someone to stand beside. I did not mean to break your armor, Tesu said honestly. It really was an accident. I know. But sometimes accidents are the universe's way of fixing what is broken. She reached up and touched his face gently. I was broken, Tesu. And you fixed me. He leaned forward and kissed her. It was soft and warm, and felt like coming home. When they pulled apart, Valera was smiling that rare smile that he loved so much. "So," she said, "what should we do now?" Taesu thought about it. They could stay on the station. They could travel. They could become ambassadors or teachers or anything they wanted. The whole galaxy was open to them. "Whatever we want," he said finally. That is the human way. You find something you love, and you build a life around it. And what do you love? He looked at her, this fierce and gentle alien woman who had changed his entire world. "You," he said simply. "I love you," she laughed. It was the most beautiful sound Taesu had ever heard. "Then let us build something beautiful," she said. And they did. In the years that followed, Kang Taesu and Valera became legends. They traveled across the galaxy, helping to build understanding between humans and Sarathi. They faced challenges and enemies and people who said their love was wrong, but they faced all of it together, and together they were unstoppable. Other couples followed their example. Slowly, carefully, the walls between species began to fall. It was not always easy. Change never is. But every great change starts somewhere. It starts with two people brave enough to love each other. It starts with a broken piece of armor and a question. Do you know what this means? Taesu had not known then, but he knew now. It meant everything.